I never thought my life would unravel so quickly. My name is Liam Hawthorne, and I'm just your average guy. Well, as average as you can get when you spend most of your days coding software that makes other people millions while barely scraping together enough to pay rent. I live in Portland, Oregon, a city where everyone seems obsessed with artisanal coffee and sustainable living. Me? I'm more about convenience than trends. Coffee from a gas station? Sure thing. Organic kale smoothies? Not unless someone's paying me to drink them. My wife, Serafina, or Sera, as she prefers to be called, couldn't be more different from me. She's this high-powered corporate lawyer who thrives on chaos, deadlines, and expensive suits. To say we were opposites would be an understatement. But for 6 years, it worked, or at least I convinced myself it did. We had our routines. She'd come home late, exhausted but still immaculately dressed, and I'd hand her a glass of wine like some dutiful house husband. Sometimes we'd talk about our day. Other times, silence filled the space between us like a third person neither of us wanted to acknowledge. Looking back now, I realize how blind I was. The signs were there, her increasingly rare smiles, the way she brushed off my attempt at connection. But I ignored them because admitting something was wrong meant confronting the truth. Our marriage wasn't built on love anymore. It was built on habit. And habits are hard to break. Things seemed normal, or as normal as they could be, for a while. Well, until that one morning when everything changed. I woke up early as usual, brewed my coffee, and opened my laptop to check emails. That's when I saw it. A notification from our joint bank account. A large sum of money, our savings, had been transferred out overnight. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe the bank messed up. Or maybe Sera had moved the funds around for tax purposes. After all, she handled most of our finances. She always said I wasn't financially savvy enough to manage them myself. But then I noticed something else. Another email sat unread in my inbox. It was from Sera. No subject line, no greeting, just a cold, formal message titled, "Our Divorce Papers." My heart sank as I clicked on it. Inside, she explained that she'd filed for divorce remotely through some online legal service. No discussion, no warning. Just a detached explanation that our marriage no longer served her goals. Goals? What kind of person talks about their marriage like it's a business deal gone bad? I tried calling her immediately, but her number went straight to voicemail. Her social media profiles? Private. It was like she'd erased me from her life overnight. For a moment, I felt like I couldn't breathe. How could someone I shared 6 years with do this without even looking me in the eye? The next few days passed in a blur. I kept replaying the email in my head, searching for clues I might have missed. Did I do something wrong? Was I not supportive enough? The questions haunted me, but deep down, I knew the answers didn't matter. Sera had made up her mind long before hitting send. What hurt the most wasn't betrayal itself. It was how calculated it felt. She didn't just leave me. She stripped me bare. When I checked our accounts again, I realized she drained almost everything. Our emergency fund, the money we'd saved for vacations, even the little nest egg I'd tucked away for a rainy day, all gone. Worse yet, she left behind massive debts under both our names. Credit cards maxed out, loans taken out without my knowledge. It was like she'd turned our entire financial foundation into quicksand and walked away clean. For the first time in years, I felt truly alone. Friends stopped answering my calls. Colleagues avoided me at work. Everyone seemed to believe Sera's version of events, that I was emotionally distant, unsupportive, and ultimately unworthy of sympathy. Even my own family hesitated to take my side. They said things like, "Maybe she just needed more from you, Liam," or "You know how driven she is." Driven? Yeah, driven straight into another man's arms, apparently. But what choice did I have? Fight back against someone like Sera? She had resources, connections, and a razor-sharp mind. Me? I was just a guy with a laptop and a broken heart. Or so I thought. Desperation has a funny way of making you resourceful. With no money left and mounting bills piling up, I started going through old files, hoping to find anything that could help me make sense of what happened. That's when I stumbled upon something strange. A hollowed-out book on my shelf. Inside was an encrypted USB drive. At first, I didn't recognize it. Then it hit me. I created this drive years ago during a paranoid phase when I feared losing control over my digital assets. Back then, I joked to myself that if anything ever went wrong, this little piece of plastic would save me. Funny how life works sometimes. With shaking hands, I plugged the drive into my computer and entered the password, a random string of numbers and letters I somehow remembered after all these years. What I found inside shocked me. Backup files, financial records, secret recordings of conversations between Sera and me. There were emails detailing shady deals she'd brokered at her firm, screenshots of transactions tied to offshore accounts, and even voice memos where she openly admitted to manipulating situations to benefit herself. Suddenly, I wasn't just a victim anymore. I had leverage, real, tangible evidence that could bring her empire crashing down. But here's the thing about leverage. Using it comes with risks. Big ones. I spent hours staring at the files on that USB drive, my mind racing with possibilities. Each document, each recording, felt like a piece of a puzzle I hadn't even realized I was solving. It was surreal, like discovering a hidden part of myself I didn't know existed. Who was this guy who had gone to such lengths to protect himself? And why hadn't I remembered any of it until now? But as much as the evidence gave me power, it also terrified me. What if Sera found out I had this? Would she come after me? Worse yet, what if she already knew and was just waiting for me to make a move? I couldn't trust anyone, not even myself. So I decided to keep it quiet, at least for now. Instead, I started piecing together everything I could about her recent activities. One file caught my attention in particular, a series of emails between Sera and someone named Victor Kane. From the context, Victor seemed to be a partner at her law firm, or maybe something more. Their exchanges were cryptic, but hinted at illegal dealings involving insider trading and embezzlement. My stomach churned as I read through them. This wasn't just about our marriage anymore. Sera was playing a dangerous game, and I'd been dragged into it without even knowing. For the first time since receiving that email, I felt a spark of hope. Not the kind that makes you smile or feel warm inside. It was colder, sharper, like the edge of a knife. If I played my cards right, I could use this information to turn the tables on Sera. Maybe not destroy her completely, but at least level the playing field. Still, I knew I couldn't do it alone. I needed help. Someone who understood how to navigate situations like this. Someone smart, discreet, and unafraid to get their hands dirty. That's when I remembered Nikki Vega, or Nikki, as everyone called her. She ran a small private investigation firm downtown, specializing in digging up dirt on powerful people. We'd met once at a networking event years ago, and while we hadn't kept in touch, I remembered her sharp wit and fearless demeanor. I reached out to her via email, keeping things vague but hinting at the stakes involved. To my relief, she agreed to meet. When we sat down at a dimly lit cafe later that week, I laid it all out for her. The divorce, the stolen money, the USB drive. At first, she listened quietly, sipping her espresso. Then, when I finished, she leaned back in her chair and smirked. "You're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid," she said. "Either way, I'm in." Working with Nikki was like stepping into another world. Where I was cautious and methodical, she was bold and relentless. Within days, she'd hacked into Sera's social media accounts, tracked her movements, and uncovered a web of connections I never would have found on my own. Together, we mapped out every angle, every weakness in Sera's armor. But there was one problem. I still didn't know what to do with the information. Should I go public and expose her crimes? Or should I use it as leverage to negotiate a settlement? Part of me wanted revenge, to watch her fall from grace, but another part of me just wanted closure. I wasn't sure which path would lead me there. Nikki pushed me to think bigger. "This isn't just about your marriage," she said one night as we pored over documents in her office. "It's about justice. For yourself, sure, but also for everyone else she screwed over along the way." Her words stuck with me. Maybe this wasn't just my fight anymore. Maybe it was something bigger. As we dug deeper, the scope of Sera's schemes became clearer and more horrifying. Through Nikki's sleuthing, we discovered that Victor Kane wasn't just a business partner. He was her lover. Together, They'd orchestrated a series of fraudulent deals that funneled millions into offshore accounts. Worse yet, they weren't acting alone. Several high-profile executives at Sera's firm were implicated, including the CEO himself. The more I learned, the angrier I got. How could she justify betraying so many people? Did she really believe she was untouchable? And most importantly, how long had she been planning this? Had our entire marriage been a lie? One night, unable to sleep, I replayed some of the voice memos from the USB drive. In one, Sera casually discussed framing a junior associate for a mistake she'd made during a major case. Her tone was so matter-of-fact, so devoid of guilt, that it sent chills down my spine. This wasn't the woman I married, or maybe it was, and I just refused to see it. With Nikki's guidance, I began fighting back. First, I anonymously tipped off a journalist friend of hers about suspicious transactions linked to Sera's accounts. Within days, rumors started swirling online. Then, using a fake persona I created with Nikki's help, I infiltrated Sera's inner circle, posing as a potential investor interested in her firm. Through this alter ego, I fed her false information designed to sow distrust among her allies. I planted seeds of doubt about Victor's loyalty, suggesting he might be cutting deals behind her back. It worked. Slowly but surely, cracks began forming in their alliance. Sera grew paranoid, lashing out at those around her and alienating the few supporters she had left. Meanwhile, I continued gathering evidence, building a case strong enough to take her down for good. But every step forward came with risks. One wrong move, and she could crush me before I even saw it coming. Just as Sera thought she was untouchable, the first blow landed. An investigative article exposing her firm's illegal activities hit the front page of a major newspaper. The fallout was immediate and devastating. Clients pulled out, shareholders panicked, and internal investigations launched overnight. When I saw the news, I felt a mix of triumph and unease. This was only the beginning. Sera wouldn't go down without a fight, and I knew she'd stop at nothing to protect herself. Still, for the first time in months, I allowed myself a small moment of satisfaction. She may have taken everything from me, but I still had one secret she forgot about, and it was going to change everything. The article was like a grenade, and I could see the shock waves rippling through Sera's life. But she wasn't going down quietly. Instead, she doubled down, spinning the narrative to paint herself as the victim of a smear campaign. In interviews, she claimed someone close to her, someone she trusted, was trying to ruin her career out of jealousy or spite. Her words stung because they were aimed directly at me, though she never said my name outright. I couldn't stay silent anymore. I arranged a meeting with her at a quiet cafe downtown, knowing it was risky, but feeling like I owed it to myself to face her one last time. When she walked in, she looked as polished and composed as ever, her blonde hair perfectly styled, her designer blazer tailored to perfection. She didn't even glance at me when she sat down. Instead, she ordered an espresso and waited for me to speak. "You really think you can win this?" I asked, my voice trembling despite my best efforts to sound calm. She smirked, that same smug expression I'd seen countless times before. "Win what, Liam? You're nothing. Always have been." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut, but I refused to let her see how much they hurt. Instead, I leaned forward, lowering my voice so no one else could hear. "You don't know everything, Sera. Not yet." Nikki had warned me not to confront Sera without a plan, and she was right. So while our coffee date seemed like a simple conversation, it was actually part of a larger trap we'd set. Earlier that day, Nikki had planted a bug in Sera's phone using a fake software update linked to her firm's network. Every word she said during our meeting would be recorded, and if she slipped up, we'd have undeniable proof of her guilt. At first, Sera played it cool, deflecting my questions with practiced ease. But then I pushed harder, dropping hints about Victor and the offshore accounts. Her composure cracked just slightly, her fingers tightening around her coffee cup. "What are you talking about?" she snapped, her tone sharper than usual. "Just curious," I replied casually. "How long has Victor been helping you launder money? Or should I ask who else knows about it?" For a split second, panic flickered across her face. Then she laughed. A brittle, Forced sound meant to mask her fear. You're delusional, Liam. This is why I left you. You can't handle reality. But I saw it, the crack in her armor, and I knew we'd won. Sera didn't waste any time retaliating. That night, she called an emergency meeting with her closest allies at the firm, including Victor. What she didn't realize was that Nikki had hacked into their conference call. Through grainy audio, we listened as Sera accused Victor of leaking information to the press. "I know it was you," she hissed, her voice venomous. "Who else would have known about the Cayman accounts?" Victor denied it, of course, but the damage was done. Trust between them evaporated instantly. By the end of the call, Sera was shouting threats, promising to destroy anyone who crossed her. Meanwhile, Victor sounded desperate, pleading his innocence while subtly hinting that Sera might be the real leak. It was chaos, and exactly what we wanted. Divide and conquer, with her inner circle crumbling. Sera was more vulnerable than ever. The final blow came when Nikki released the recordings to the media. Overnight, Sera's carefully constructed image shattered. Clips of her accusing Victor, her panicked voice on the cafe recording, and snippets of her incriminating emails flooded news outlets. Journalists dissected every detail, painting her as the mastermind behind years of corruption and deceit. Watching it unfold felt surreal. One moment, she was untouchable, the golden girl of corporate law, and the next, she was a pariah. Her firm suspended her pending investigation. Client abandoned her, and even her social circle turned its back. For the first time, I saw genuine fear in her eyes when I passed her on the street. She tried to ignore me, but I caught her glancing over her shoulder as if expecting me to strike again. With overwhelming evidence against her, Sera faced criminal charges. The DA offered her a plea deal, testify against Victor and the others involved, or risk spending decades in prison. Predictably, she chose self-preservation, turning on everyone who'd once stood by her side. As for me, I negotiated a settlement that wiped away the debt she'd left in my name and secured a modest payout from our remaining assets. It wasn't enough to make me rich, but it was enough to start over. Still, I didn't gloat. Watching Sera's downfall wasn't satisfying. It was heartbreaking. Not because I still loved her, but because it reminded me of how far people will go when consumed by greed and ambition. Just as I thought I was free, I received a text message late one night. No name, no number, just a single line. "You think you're safe, but you're not. Remember the USB drive." My blood ran cold. Who knew about it? Had Sera somehow discovered its existence? Or was there someone else involved? Someone I hadn't accounted for? Suddenly, the victory fell hollow. I'd exposed Sera's secrets. But what about mine? What if the truth about the USB drive and everything contained came out too? The text haunted me. Every creak of the floorboards, every unfamiliar car parked outside my apartment. It all felt like a threat waiting to happen. I started sleeping with my phone under my pillow, jumping at every notification. Was it Sera trying to regain control? Or was it someone else entirely? I confided in Nikki, who immediately went into damage control mode. She swept my apartment for bugs, changed my passwords, and set up a new secure server for the USB drive's contents. Still, neither of us could shake the feeling that we were missing something. "There's always a loose end," Nikki said grimly. "And whoever sent that message knows yours." Desperate for answers, I revisited the files on the USB drive. That's when I noticed something I'd overlooked before. A hidden folder buried deep within the encryption. Inside were documents linking me, not Sera, to questionable transactions dating back years. Transactions I didn't remember authorizing. Panic set in. How had these ended up on my drive? Had Sera framed me as a backup plan? Or was there another player in this game? Someone who'd been manipulating both of us from the start? Nikki suggested confronting Victor, now that he was cut off from Sera and desperate for allies. Reluctantly, I agreed. What I learned from him turned my world upside down. Meeting Victor was like stepping into a darker corner of the labyrinth I'd been navigating for months. He looked nothing like the confident, polished executive I'd seen in photos. His suit was rumpled, his eyes bloodshot, and his hands trembled as he lit one cigarette after another. We met in a dingy motel room on the outskirts of town, far from prying eyes. At first, He refused to talk, claiming he had nothing to gain by helping me. But when I showed him screenshots in the hidden folder on my USB drive, transactions linking both of us to offshore accounts, he cracked. It wasn't Sera, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. She was just a pawn, same as you. What are you talking about? I demanded, though a sinking feeling already told me where this was going. Victor exhaled a plume of smoke before continuing. There's someone else pulling the strings. Someone who's been using us all, you, Sera, me, to launder money and cover their tracks. They fed Sera enough rope to hang herself, and now they're coming for you. Who is it? I asked, my heart pounding. Victor hesitated, then slid a piece of paper across the table. On it was a single name, Eleanor Devereaux, Sera's mother. The revelation hit me like a freight train. Eleanor Devereaux, the elegant, seemingly harmless socialite who'd always treated me with polite indifference, was behind everything? It didn't make sense. Why would she orchestrate such an elaborate scheme involving her own daughter? Victor explained that Eleanor had been quietly building a financial empire for decades, using her family's connections and influence to pull strings from the shadows. Sera's rise in the corporate world hadn't been due to talent or hard work. It had been engineered by Eleanor to position her as the perfect front for illegal activities. When Sera started questioning her mother's methods, Eleanor decided she was expendable. And you? I asked Victor, what's your role in all this? He grimaced. I'm collateral damage, just like you. As much as I wanted to walk away, I knew I couldn't. If Eleanor was truly the puppet master, she wouldn't stop until everyone involved was silenced, including me. With Nikki's help, I devised a plan to expose Eleanor without implicating myself further. Using the evidence from the USB drive and Victor's testimony, we pieced together a damning case against her. But instead of going public, we handed it over to the FBI under strict anonymity. It wasn't an easy decision. Part of me wanted to confront Eleanor directly, to force her to face the destruction she'd caused. But Nikki convinced me that staying in the shadows was safer. For now. You've already played your part, she said firmly. Let the authorities handle the rest. So I stepped back, watching from afar as the investigation unfolded. Within weeks, Eleanor was arrested on charges of fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. Her arrest sent shockwaves through Portland's elite circles, unraveling years of corruption and deceit. But even as justice was served, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd only scratched the surface of something much larger. Months passed, and life slowly began to feel normal again, or as normal as it could be after everything I'd been through. I sold the apartment Sera and I had shared and moved into a small studio downtown. For the first time in years, I felt free, not just financially, but emotionally. I threw myself into my work, taking on freelance projects that allowed me to travel and explore new opportunities. Nikki became more than just an ally. She became a friend, someone I trusted implicitly. Together, we talked about starting a consulting firm to help others caught in similar situations. Still, there were nights when sleep eluded me, my mind replaying moments from the past year. What if Eleanor wasn't truly defeated? What if she had other secrets, other pawns waiting in the wings? One evening, as I packed up my belongings to move to a new city, I found a letter tucked inside an old book. It was addressed to me, written in elegant cursive handwriting. I recognized immediately Eleanor's. Dear Liam, I underestimated you. That won't happen again. The note was unsigned, but the message was clear. She knew I was the one who exposed her, and she wasn't done fighting. For a moment, fear gripped me. Then anger took its place. If Eleanor thought she could intimidate me into silence, she was wrong. I'd already lost too much to back down now. In the end, I chose to leave Portland behind, not out of fear, but because I needed a fresh start. I settled in Seattle, where I rebuilt my life piece by piece. The scars remained, but they reminded me of how far I'd come, and how strong I'd become. As for Eleanor, I heard whispers of her trial dominating headlines. Despite her wealth and connections, the evidence against her was overwhelming. She was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison, a fate she likely never imagined for herself. Looking back, I realized a true lesson of my journey. People will always try to control you, manipulate you, and use you for their own gain. But no matter how broken you feel, you hold the power to rewrite your story. And so I did.